Sergeant William Hayes stood at attention outside Windsor Castle, his scarlet tunic immaculate despite the drizzling English rain. At 32, he had dedicated 12 years of his life to serving the crown, rising through the ranks with unwavering dedication and an unspotless record. His fellow guards respected him not just for his military precision, but for his unshakable moral compass that had guided him through countless situations. The autumn evening was quiet except for the distant hum of traffic and the occasional tourist taking photos from beyond the castle gates. Hayes had drawn the late shift, a duty he actually preferred because it gave him time to think and reflect on his service. His modest apartment in nearby Slough was waiting for him after his shift, along with the bills that seemed to multiply. Each month, despite his careful budgeting, Hayes came from a working class family in Leeds where his father had worked in the steel mills until they closed down. His mother cleaned offices to make ends meet, and his younger sister was struggling to pay for her nursing degree. The sergeant sent home what money he could spare each month, but it was never enough to make a real difference in their daily struggles. The evening deepened. A sleek black sedan pulled up to the castle's service entrance, an unusual occurrence during Hayes's shift. The driver, an elegantly dressed man in his 50s, emerged and approached the guard post with confident steps. His expensive suit and gold watch immediately marked him as someone of considerable wealth and influence. "Sergeant Hayes, I presume?" the man said with a cultured accent, extending a manicured hand. "My name is Marcus Thornfield. I represent certain private interests who have been observing your exemplary service record." Hayes remained at attention, his eyes fixed straight ahead, though every instinct told him this unexpected visitor meant trouble. Thornfield smiled at the guard's discipline, but continued speaking in low, measured tones. "I have a proposition that could change your life entirely, Sergeant. Opportunity that would solve all your financial worries and provide security for your family that you could never achieve on a military salary alone." Thornfield reached into his coat and produced a thick envelope, holding it casually in his hand. "Inside this envelope is £50,000 in cash, Sergeant. Consider it a down payment on a much larger arrangement that could make you wealthy. Beyond your current dreams." Hayes's heart skipped a beat at the mention of such an enormous sum. More money than he had ever seen in his entire life. The mysterious man continued his pitch with the smoothness of someone accustomed to getting what he wanted. "All we require is some basic information about security procedures, shift schedules, and access protocols. Nothing that would directly endanger anyone, you understand. It's just routine details that would help my clients plan certain business ventures that require precise timing." Hayes felt his mouth go dry as he realized what was being proposed. Thornfield was asking him to betray his oath, to sell information about royal security for money. The envelope in the man's hand seemed to glow in the dim light, representing everything his family needed and more. His sister could finish her nursing program without debt. His parents could retire comfortably, and he could finally afford a decent place to live. £50,000 is just the beginning," Thornfield continued, noting the conflict playing across Hayes's face. "Once you prove your reliability, we're prepared to offer you a monthly retainer of £10,000. Within a year, you could have enough money to buy your parents a proper home and ensure your sister never worries about student loans again." The weight of the offer hung heavy in the damp air between them. Hayes thought of his mother's arthritic hands as she scrubbed office floors late into the night, of his father's disappointed face when he was forced into early retirement, of his sister working double shifts at a coffee shop to pay for her textbooks. The money could solve every problem his family faced, but alongside those thoughts came the memory of the oath he had sworn when he first put on the uniform. He remembered the pride in his father's eyes when he had graduated from military training, the trust that had been placed in him to protect not just buildings and ceremonies, but the very foundations of the society he served. The uniform he wore represented something larger than himself. Hayes finally allowed himself to look directly at Thornfield, his blue eyes steady and clear despite the internal storm raging within him. "Sir, I need you to understand something very clearly," he said, his voice calm but firm. "The information you're asking for isn't mine to give. It belongs to the Crown, to the people of this country, and to every citizen who trusts that their institutions are protected by honorable men and women." Thornfield's confident expression flickered slightly. but he pressed on. "Sergeant, think about your family. Your mother working herself to exhaustion, your sister drowning in debt, your father's medical bills mounting. This money could eliminate all of that suffering. Sometimes we must make difficult choices for the greater good of those we love." Temptation was almost overwhelming. Hayes could picture his sister's relief when she could focus on her studies instead of working endless hours. He could imagine his parents' faces when they realized they would never have to worry about money again. The envelope seemed to pulse with possibility, the power to transform every life he cared about. But then Hayes thought about the young recruits who looked up to him, junior guards who sought his guidance and example. He thought about the tourists who visited the castle every day, trusting that they were safe under the protection of honorable guards. He thought about the children, like the little girl he had recently saved, who saw him as a symbol of strength and reliability. "Mr. Thornfield," Hayes said quietly, "I've spent my entire adult life earning the trust that's been placed in me. That trust isn't something I can sell. Not for £50,000. Not for £50 million. My integrity isn't for sale at any price." Thornfield's pleasant demeanor began to fade as he realized the guard was serious about his refusal. "Sergeant, you're making a mistake that you'll regret for the rest of your life. This opportunity won't come again, and your family will continue to struggle while you cling to outdated notions of honor that won't pay your bills or secure your future." Hayes stepped closer to Thornfield, his military bearing now radiating quiet authority. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave these grounds immediately. And I should inform you that attempting to bribe a member of the Royal Guard is a serious criminal offense that I am obligated to report to my superiors." Thornfield's mask of civility finally slipped entirely. "You're a fool, Hayes. Do you think your precious honor will comfort your family when they're struggling to keep their heads above water? Do you think your commanding officers will care about your sacrifice when you're too old to serve and have nothing to show for your years of dedication?" The words stung because Hayes knew there was truth in them. Military pensions were modest, and he had few prospects for wealth or financial security through legitimate means. He watched other men his age buying homes and starting families, while he sent his meager savings to help his parents and sister. The path of integrity was indeed a difficult one, but Hayes had learned long ago that the right choice was rarely the easy choice. "Mr. Thornfield, my family raised me to understand that some things matter more than money. They would be ashamed of me if I betrayed my oath for personal gain, even if it meant helping them. True honor means doing what's right even when it costs us everything." Thornfield realized his mission had failed completely. He tucked the envelope back into his coat with obvious frustration. "This conversation never happened, Sergeant. But remember, opportunities like this don't come along often. If you change your mind, you can reach me through certain channels." He handed Hayes a plain business card with only a phone number printed on it. Hayes took the card and immediately tore it in half, letting the pieces fall to the wet pavement. "I won't be needing this, sir. My decision is final." Thornfield stared at the torn card for a moment, shook his head in what might have been admiration or disgust, and walked back to his sedan without another word. Hayes immediately reported the incident to Captain Williams, providing every detail of Thornfield's approach and offer. The captain listened gravely, taking careful notes and asking probing questions about the mysterious visitor. Within hours, security protocols were quietly enhanced and an investigation was launched into Thornfield's background and possible connections to hostile organizations. The investigation revealed that Thornfield represented foreign interests seeking intelligence about royal security measures. Hayes's refusal to cooperate had prevented a significant breach of national security. His commanding officers were both relieved and impressed by his unwavering loyalty under such tempting circumstances. Word of Hayes's integrity spread through the military hierarchy, reaching senior officials who rarely concerned themselves with individual guards. His name appeared in classified reports as an example of exemplary conduct under pressure. While Hayes himself remained unaware of the full scope of the investigation his report had triggered, his actions had protected far more than just royal security protocols. Meanwhile, Hayes continued his regular duties with the same dedication as always, though he found himself occasionally thinking about the torn business card and the road not taken. During quiet moments on guard duty, he wondered if he had made the right choice, especially when he received another worried letter from his sister about her mounting student debt. The financial pressures on his family hadn't disappeared with his moral victory. His mother's arthritis was getting worse, requiring expensive medication they could barely afford. His father had been diagnosed with diabetes, adding medical costs to their already tight budget. Hayes increased his own financial contributions to his family, cutting his personal expenses even further. Some nights, lying in his small apartment, Hayes questioned whether noble intentions were enough when his family continued to struggle. He had chosen duty over wealth, but that choice seemed to benefit everyone except the people he loved most. The weight of righteousness felt heavier than he had expected, accompanied by the quiet burden of wondering if he had been foolishly idealistic rather than practically wise. 6 months after the Thornfield incident, Hayes received an unexpected summons to appear before a panel of senior officers. He entered the room nervously, wondering if somehow his refusal to take the bribe had created complications he wasn't aware of. Instead, he found himself facing 3 colonels and a brigadier, all wearing expressions of solemn respect. "Sergeant Hayes," the brigadier began, "your actions 6 months ago prevented what could have been a serious security breach. Your integrity under extreme temptation has not gone unnoticed by this command, or by certain government officials who prefer to remain unnamed." Hayes stood at attention, unsure where this conversation was leading. The brigadier continued, "We are pleased to inform you that you have been selected for immediate promotion to staff sergeant, along with assignment to a special security detail. That comes with significantly enhanced compensation and benefits." Hayes felt his knees nearly buckle with surprise and relief. But the news wasn't finished. Additionally, one of the colonels added, "A private foundation that supports military families has established a scholarship fund for your sister's nursing education, and a medical assistance program has been arranged for your parents' healthcare needs. These benefits come with no strings attached and no expectation of anything beyond your continued exemplary service." Hayes struggled to maintain his composure as the magnitude of the news sank in. His choice to refuse Thornfield's bribe had ultimately led to exactly the kind of help his family needed, but through legitimate channels that honored rather than compromised his service. The irony wasn't lost on him that doing the right thing had eventually brought the very rewards that taking money would have provided. Later that evening, Hayes called his family to share the incredible news. His sister cried with relief when she learned her education would be fully funded. His parents could hardly believe that their medical expenses would no longer be a crushing burden. The pride in their voices when they spoke of their son's integrity and the recognition he had received was worth more to Hayes than any amount of money could have been. Years later, Staff Sergeant Hayes would tell junior guards that integrity wasn't just about doing the right thing when it was easy, but about maintaining honor when the cost seemed too high to bear. He had learned that true wealth came not from what you could buy, but from what you could live with when you looked at yourself in the mirror each morning. His choice to value duty over personal gain had not only protected his country's security, but had ultimately provided for his family in ways that dirty money never could have achieved.